Hello, this week I am going to cover the most common nutritional myths and help you understand what is true. So the worst thing in the health and fitness world is misinformation and really old school belief systems that people carry that actually stop them from getting good results. So I asked a couple of my friends and my clients and I looked into ones that I hear most often so that I can address them for you. You can get past them ASAP. So we'll be covering 10 different myths as well as covering what is true. So to give you a good idea of what's coming, some of those myths include carbs being bad, fruit being fattening, fat burning foods, calorie-free foods, eating 1200 calories a day, eating more frequently to speed up your metabolism, the food pyramid, eating in moderation, and more. So if you're interested in learning more about that, then stick around. It is full of really cool information. I just want to throw out a general statement which will sort of help you understand why there is so much confusion around food. And that is that big food companies actually employ staff with the number one task of creating confusion, because a confused mind is a stressed mind, and a stressed mind doesn't make very good choices, because when we're stressed, we're more flustered and we tend to be more impulsive and more self-sabotaging. So yes, these people exist. These companies do everything that it takes to keep themselves in operation and making profit. That is the point of their existence. And then of course we've got that whole other issue of influencers and unqualified nutritional people that just say stuff to sell stuff to you. So there's kind of two problems going on there, but we're about to dispel all of those myths so that you can just get on with it and start getting results. So the first one I'm going to cover is that carbs are bad for you. So this is false, 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 and I'm constantly debunking it. So although you can survive without carbs, they are not an essential nutrient, and your body does actually have mechanisms in place in order to convert either bodily tissues or fat and protein to carbohydrates. Can do this. It doesn't mean that that is ideal. In fact, when you think about it, in a weight loss diet, you're actually making sugar from body fat in a way to compensate for the lack of calories in your diet. That's how you lose fat. So it's possible, it's just not ideal. And many people are just over consuming the wrong types of carbs. So it's not the carbs that are the problem, it's the processed food. And it's eating too many carbs if you've already abused that system within your body. So when you eat way too many sugars and processed foods like this, you overconsume them, you eat way more than what you actually utilize in a day, either through your daily activity or your exercise, then you start to become what we call insulin resistant, which is when the body stops producing insulin in response to those carbohydrates. So it kind of becomes desensitized. The insulin will not actually any longer be produced, and that is when you have type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetic conditions and obesity. So as you can see, the overconsumption of terrible types of carbs can be the problem, but small amounts of those types of carbs and just moderate amounts of carbohydrate in general, especially when it's coming from quite a healthful source, this is not going to cause a problem. People lose fat on carbs, play sporting events, they reach peak potential, they think clearly, they're sharp, they maintain a really healthy body composition whilst eating carbs. So it's not the carbohydrates that are the problem, it is the abuse of carbohydrates. And most of the time that is caused by inactivity, very high stress levels, and too much sugar consumption. That's usually the problem. So women even need carbohydrates to a level in order to have a healthy menstrual cycle. So, you can't just take them out. If you were somebody who was, say, obese, or you actually were insulin resistant, then taking carbs out for a period of time is actually going to be very beneficial for you. But if this is not your problem, then it is not beneficial. And even if it is, you would take them out for a period of time, but once you sort of start reaching what you would consider a healthy weight, so for a woman between say 20 and 30% body fat, then you would want to start bringing them back in, because you don't want to suffer a kind of rebound, and that can be physical urge, like the body actually needing carbs and being so depleted that it overrides your self-control and you end up binging on them. Or it could just be an emotional thing where you're just so sick of not eating them that one day you just go nuts. So you don't want to have that kind of thing, because carbohydrates are in every single thing that you love to eat. They will not kill you. You just want to eat them in moderation and try and choose healthy versions as much as you can, such as fruit, most grains, oats, vegetables, potatoes, and things like that. If it comes from Mother Nature and contains a carb, you can eat it. If it's a junk food, you can also eat it if it's in moderation and if you're coming from a healthy standpoint. So that is the first one. And the second one, my favorite, is that the sugar in fruit makes you fat. This one, actually, a few people told me when I asked. I haven't so much heard that it makes you fat, but I have absolutely heard client after client after client telling me that fruit is bad for them because of the sugar. So this is one that I definitely suspect comes from a big bang food company that is not selling fruit to try and get you to think it's bad because they know you're going to need the carbs and the sugar, and then you're just going to go and buy their stuff, which you haven't really heard anything bad about, because why would they tell you that it's bad? Because then you might not eat it and then they're not going to make any profit. So we don't have to sell fruit. Everyone knows that kind of everything that comes from Mother Nature is quite healthy. That is why they don't need to market it to you, because you are going to grab that if you're a health conscious person. But junk food requires marketing because it's not a natural instinct to go and buy junk food. That is why they pump so much money into it, because it is so profitable. And as you would know, totally addictive. So fruit is not bad. If you are diabetic or insulin resistant, then you probably shouldn't eat heaps of fruit, and it would absolutely be beneficial to choose really high fiber, high nutrient, low glycemic index fruits. And that would be like apples, pears, and berries. But it does not mean that you cannot eat fruit. The body knows what fruit is. It will regulate itself within there. And if you think about it, it is very hard to eat, say, an entire bag of grapes or 6 mangoes or something ridiculous like that. But you could eat the equivalent carbs in popcorn at the movie theater, or a bag of lollies or something like that, and you get the exact same amount of carbohydrate as you would from that much fruit. So if you think about it like that, the body actually does have a natural mechanism which tells you that is enough sugar, that is enough fruit, and you will be able to regulate your consumption like that. So the sugar that is in fruit is fructose, but other sugar products also break down into fructose when you eat them. So if you're scared of the fructose, and that's what you're thinking, comes from most sugar sources. So that's not a reason not to eat fruit. Your best bet is to drop the junk sugar and eat the fruit instead, especially if you want to lose weight and you want to maintain your body composition. You can just not eat fruit. Like I personally eat probably like 2 bananas a week, a few apples and berries. Like that's my preference. I don't like to eat a lot of fruit, but that is because I personally do not digest carbohydrates very well. So I get my carbs from oats, from rice, from potato, and then those fruits that I just mentioned. So that's ideal for my body. But many of my clients eat heaps of fruit. They look awesome. They're quite lean, they're muscular, they're killing it. They do bodybuilding comps with plenty of fruit in their diet. So don't be scared of fruit. My third one that I want to share with you is that the food pyramid is the best way to eat. I'm not going to say that the food pyramid is bad, because it's not. If you have a look at it, actually has fruits and vegetables. It's kind of the biggest section. But next to that is grains. And then we have like animal products, is this tiny little thing like this, but eating animal protein, especially if it's really good quality and if it's lean, is actually so good for you because it helps you maintain muscle, and muscle is essential for longevity and a healthy body composition. So, I don't know if it's a really good thing to just be smashing your face with grains and fruits and veg all the day and sprinkling the meat on top. I would say that that is wrong. In other countries such as America, there's a lot of big food company investment in their food recommendations. They're actually in a little bit of heat at the moment because they recommended certain sugary cereals to be much healthier than steak. So if that does not tell you that there's something wrong with the government recommendations around food, I don't know what does. So just take something like the food pyramid as a recommendation for somebody who does not really know how to eat, but it doesn't mean that it is the best way to eat. There are better ways, but you've got to start somewhere that works for you. Food pyramid works, that's great. And then as you become healthier, start to look at the finer details and you can refine it more that way. And my fourth myth is that you have to eat perfectly in order to be healthy. This is absolutely a myth because the body is very resilient. It really comes down to where that attitude is coming from. So common sense would tell you that the more healthy food you eat, the more whole foods from Mother Nature herself, the healthier you're going to be. And this is a fact, but there are other factors that are really important, such as your sleep, your emotional health, and your stress levels. These things kind of come really close together, but I can tell you, I used to eat a perfect whole food diet, thinking that that was going to save me from all these health problems and stress I experienced, but I still got chronic fatigue syndrome. So it was not the only piece. The piece that was missing for me was the emotional stress and all of this stuff that had gone on in my life that I had never addressed. So that actually broke my body down regardless of the diet. I would definitely argue that I was able to carry that emotional stress better because I wasn't adding additional stress through junk food, but it wasn't enough to protect me completely. And that goes for anybody. So a health food diet is crucial for health. It is crucial for recovering from any type of illness. It is very important, but it is not the only thing that matters. And just know that if you have a little bit of a blowout, your body has mechanisms in place to deal with that. And that includes things like upregulating your metabolism. It has an inflammatory response, which is all about bringing the body back to homeostasis. So as long as you're not doing it every day, it's when you're doing it chronically, that is when it is a problem. And if you have health conditions, if you don't feel well, probably doing too much of it. There's probably not enough balance there, and you should probably be focusing on eating healthy. But in this umbrella, we have these people that think that they have to be perfect in order to get any type of health at all. And then when they make one little mistake, they end up binging because they think they've stuffed the whole thing anyway. But that is not how it works. It should just be a general picture of healthful food choices. And then you can sprinkle in a few sweet treats and other things like that here and there. And you just want to listen to your body. So if you eat, say, fish and chips down at the beach and you feel like crap after, you're probably not so good with those seed oils, because that's what they've battered the fish in. Or it may be the gluten in the batter. So you just got to be sort of aware, and the healthier your body is, so the more you do eat healthy, the more it's going to tell you when something's not right. So eat as healthily as you can afford, but don't beat yourself up if it's not perfect, because your body will still remain healthy. My fifth one is that you should eat fat-burning foods, because that's going to make you leaner and look like a fitness model. Not true. No such thing as a fat-burning food. Calorie control is really the only way to manage your body composition in the long term and keep your body fat levels healthy. So this means that fat burners, coffee, and berries won't make your body fat drop off and your metabolism to skyrocket. The body's not that simple. And in addition to that, you've got things like chili, cinnamon, and pre-trainers that are also sold as fat burners, but they're really not. It's your everyday actions that are going to help you burn fat if that's your goal. And if you overeat, or your hormones are imbalanced, or your gut is inflamed, or you are too stressed, it is highly likely that you're not going to maintain a healthy body composition no matter what you're eating. So adding all these things in is not going to counter the effects of the general everyday stresses on your body. They can assist in fat loss if all other things are in check, but they will not cause fat loss. So there's a very big difference there. So if fat burning is your goal, and this is why you're leaning into this kind of thing, then just know that it is really about calorie control. It's about structure. There's a lot of videos on my channel about fat loss. There's actually a playlist, so check those out if you want to know more. But just notice it's not as simple as eating a certain type of food. The only time in which this kind of point does make sense is what we call the thermic effect of food. So if we're referring to that, there are certain macronutrients and foods that do take more energy than others to break down in the body. So the top one there is animal protein. So when you're eating that, a lot of the energy that comes from the protein, so a lot of the calories that come from what you've just consumed, is actually churned up in the breaking down of that food. And second to that is carbohydrates, and lastly to that is fat. So when you eat fat, that is more likely to be stored as fat in the body, but fat is also an essential nutrient, so you can't just cut it out. Okay, so this is why bodybuilding diets and bikini body plans, they are very low in fat, moderate in carbs, mostly low glycemic carbs, and they are high in animal protein. That is the optimal way to eat if you want to maintain a really lean, strong looking body. But for a lot of people, it is also not sustainable long term, whether for lifestyle reasons, you're missing out, or your body actually just needs more fat and more carbs in order to be healthy. So everyone's a bit different there. There's no fat burning foods, but they are ideal ways to eat and maneuver your whole food diet in order to optimize the way that you look. Myth number 6 is that there are calorie-free foods. There's not really a calorie-free food. Even an artificial sweetener has about 1 to 3 calories per gram, whereas the macronutrient that it is designed to replace, being carbohydrate, has 4 calories per gram. And there's still a little bit of debate as to whether the body actually compensates for the lack of calories there, because it still thinks you've eaten sugar in a way. So sugar-free foods are not calorie-free. Artificial sweeteners are not calorie-free. And a lot of the time, they actually cause a lot of digestive distress. So a lot of people have had that experience where they eat like a whole bag of sugar-free lollies and then they spend all afternoon on the toilet. It's not so good for you. And there's also studies that have shown that it increases your blood sugar anyway, and then causes you to crave sugar anyway. So what is the point in taking them out? And then there's also other evidence suggests that it is not so good for your nervous system. And your nervous system is what operates the entire body. So neurotoxins, not the best. There is Natvia and stevia, which are sugar replacements. I'm not sure how many calories per gram they would be because that's never really been explored, but they have expressed that they don't increase blood sugar and they don't cause sugar craving. So they could be a really good option. It's a plant. There's also monk fruit, which might be included, but I'll be honest, I've never checked. I have not looked that one up. So yeah, stevia, Natvia as a good replacement if you want, and just sort of lay off the sugar-free foods if you're trying to improve your diet. You can do it for a little while, like as a transitional thing. So yes, it's probably better to have a, say, Pepsi Max instead of a full sugar Pepsi if you're trying to change your diet. But your ultimate end goal would also be to start reducing the artificial sweetness once you've reached your goal. Once you've kind of made that transition so that you can get even more healthy as you go. So you don't want to replace one vice with another. You know, you want to kind of gradually work towards having none of those vices at all and just enjoy a healthy whole food diet. So the next myth that I have for you is that everyone should just eat in moderation. So the word moderation is a little bit vague, and I don't think that really everybody probably should be thinking like that anymore. And it gets used kind of in a funny way because, for example, if you go to breakfast with someone and they're ordering like a loaded banana bread and a caramel latte for breakfast, they'll always make a comment like, oh, eating in moderation. Probably not really eating in moderation because they're probably eating that sort of stuff throughout the day. If you start the day with cake and sugar, it's likely the day is going to continue on like that. You know, and yes, banana bread, but you know, it's mostly sugar, not so much banana. Not the best start of the day choice, and if you're in a really good place, then eating in moderation is fantastic because your body will be resilient enough to tackle all of that extra stuff that comes in. So junk food, yes, it's a stressor. So junk food is a stressor regardless if you want it to be or not. And it will impact your health in the long term if you consume too much of it. And it's one of those things that's so gradual, most people don't even realize. They don't know until they take it out and replace it with a whole food diet how bad they were really feeling before. You know, so moderation might look like you eat a whole food diet every meal of every day, but then maybe have like a little chocolate on one day, maybe put a bit of caramel in your latte another day, and then maybe have some pizza with friends on a Saturday. That'd be eating in moderation. But if you're eating stuff like that every day, if you're nibbling on sugar all day, you're not eating in moderation, you're eating a lot of junk food. And so it's pretty good if you actually want to be really healthy in the long term to give yourself a bit of a reality check and see if that is you and if that is something that you are saying and thinking about yourself and your own diet. And just know that the healthier you are, generally the more of that kind of thing you can get away with because as I said, your body's a little bit more resilient. But when it's completely overwhelmed all the time, you just keep throwing fire. You just keep throwing sticks on the fire. That's the problem. So nothing's going to shift and nothing's going to change until you start getting that moderation back to what that word really means. Like if you said, I call my friend moderately, how often would that be? It doesn't mean you're calling her 3 times a day. So think about it a little bit like that. It's probably not the best example, but yeah, just really think about what that word means and go from there. And then on that point, before we move on to the next one, I just want to highlight that for some people, actually learning to eat in moderation is essential because they flipped way too far out on the health scale. You know, so I used to be one of these people and I've helped a lot of clients through this, which is where they actually think that, you know, something that is not organic is going to be dangerous. Or, you know, oh my gosh, that piece of toast really ruined my whole day. Like it's never really that dramatic. Bodies don't overreact that much to small amounts of junk food. When people have that kind of mindset is more coming from a disordered perspective, and what they actually need to learn how to do is just let go a little bit. They need to learn how to have fun with their friends and how to be a little bit more exploratory in their diet in order to actually be balanced and healthy. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to how you feel within yourself, what is important to you, and you just don't want your diet or your way of eating to be destroying you psychologically. So if eating a banana gives you fear because you think the sugar is going to make you fat, that is something you want to work on. If you think that just because you had some pizza with your friend on a Saturday night and a glass of wine, if that gives you anxiety and you feel like you have to exercise extra the next day, you probably need to learn how to eat in moderation more. You know, so it's just working out where you're at personally and what is important to you. And absolutely, if you had, say, anorexia, eating in moderation is not even a problem. The problem is you just want to eat more. It wouldn't matter where those calories come from because you're so unhealthy that more food is going to make you healthy. It wouldn't matter where it came from. Like anything would be fine. Anything would be better than not eating. You know, so it doesn't apply to everyone, but it is a good one to think about and see where you fit in that scale. The next one I have is that multiple meals per day speed up your metabolism. There used to be this guy locally here that did competition prep, and he used to make people have like 17 really tiny meals per day because apparently it was going to speed up their metabolism. This is not really ideal because we're not by nature grazers. So one of our biggest problems, in fact, is nibbling all day. So our bodies aren't designed to do that. You're actually better off to have 3 or 4 sort of big meals, even 5 really if you want to, throughout the day. It depends on how many calories you have to fit in and what your lifestyle looks like. That's kind of ideal for health in this modern day because we live quite highly stressful lives. So if you think about it, like eating every, say, 4 to 5 hours, it's probably the longest you'd want to leave between meals during the day. But eating more often than that or more smaller meals does not actually make you burn more fat or be healthier. So I just want you to understand that 3 meals a day is perfectly fine. You do not have to have 6 in order to be healthier. This has been disproven in studies. The only reason why I would give someone, say, 5 meals per day or even 5 meals per day plus a dessert on a fat loss diet or just a normal diet is if that person has a bit of a food addiction, because what you're trying to do is just make it so they can eat something they look forward to quite often throughout the day. But in the very long term, I actually pull my clients back to about 3 or 4 meals per day. And they're feeling good within their body, we start to peel that back and see how they go. And that can sometimes trigger those food addiction feelings because they're so used to nibbling, but they do feel better and have less cravings once their meals are more like 3 or 4 per day. Only if they're healthy meals, of course. But yeah, eating more is not going to help you look better or be healthier. Then we have, I'm just going to mention this one really quickly because it's triggering for so many people. That's why I put it at the end because I think less people are going to see this one. But animal protein is not inflammatory. You can eat animal protein and be very healthy. What is inflammatory is things like burgers from McDonald's, turkey loaves that's full of this glue product, salami that's come from like toxic animals. So the toxic waste in our body that we can't process through our liver or elimination pathways will be stored in fat. So if you're a super toxic animal and you get eaten and somebody eats all that fat, you're going to get a little bit of toxic waste there. If you have, say, a grass-fed animal, so it's a happy animal, walking around on a field all day, it's got lots of omega-3, the body fat on it is just normal body fat. You cannot get inflammation, which is unhealthy, from eating that. You're actually going to get a bucket load of nutrients, essential nutrients, in fact, which are going to help you be much healthier in the long term. So animal products are not inflammatory. There are certain animal products which are really unideal. Bacon's one, cabanossi, some sausages, they contain gluten and other fillers. Those kinds of things are not healthy, but they have not done a study where they went and got all these lean, grass-fed, organic, wild-caught meats and compared that to, say, a plant-based diet. They've never done that, so that's why there's no proof on it. They just get junk food meat and then they say, look how bad it is. Because they want to sell you plant products because they're more profitable. So not every study is authentic. Some of them are actually just rigged and set up to produce a certain result, which makes a certain amount of profit for certain people. But it does not mean it is ideal for your health. So animal products are not a problem. The best kind of way to tackle that is to eat low-fat meats if you're just getting normal cheap meat, say, and only really eat the fat if you know it's coming from a healthy animal source. So that's that one. And then we have the last one, which is to eat 1,200 calories a day. So that myth's dead. In the bodybuilding world, it doesn't even exist anymore because we have all worked out that you should always eat as much as you can possibly eat every day to fuel your training, to fuel your life, even in excess if you can digest it, in order to be as healthy as possible. There is a little bit of school of thought that says that if you're a little bit hungry between each meal, then that is actually optimally healthy. I would tend to agree with that. It's not the best conditions for building muscle, but in terms of optimal health, it surely is. You want to be a little bit hungry throughout the day and also not eat until you are stuffed. But 1,200 calories is way too low unless you are like 45 kilos, not exercising and sitting around in your bum all day. Anyone who just chooses that number is way undershooting their daily requirements, and they're going to have negative consequences like a downregulated thyroid, meaning it does not work as well, bloating when they actually finally do eat, probably poor sleep, no energy, lots of brain fog, and metabolic adaptations, which could actually cause you to put on fat and store a lot more water than usual because of the amount of stress the body's under from the lack of. So not necessarily a nutritional myth, but definitely regarding nutrition, you should always eat as much as you can to maintain a healthy body. And it is not 1,200 calories for any individual. So that felt like a really long one. My mouth is really dry and I'm a little bit tired. So I hope you found that really helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I always write back. And if you have any suggestions for any other videos, let me know. And please like and subscribe if you want to see more. And I'll see you in the next video.